Hello students, hope you all fine, and in today's session we will be discussing about working of Hive. So this particular session will be providing you the insight about how exactly Hive will be performing, what all things are involved in it. Okay, so we'll be talking about first, that is working of Hive. Okay, what is the procedure, and then we'll be talking about the command line interface, what all syntax we require, what are the inbuilt functions, okay, and the commands which are related to the Hive. So we'll be discussing about those particular set of points in today's session. Okay, so basically when we talk about Hive, I said it was having a similar kind of SQL structure. Okay, so we'll be looking out the similar kind of things on that. Well, we'll go to that in the later stages, but today, beginning working of Hive, how exactly we need to look out. Now, in another video or the session, we discussed about the architecture of Hive. Okay, what all things happen there and how exactly the components from the client side to the service, that is the Hive. Then we have the MapReduce and then the HDFS itself or the HBase. Now, when we talk about these components, we spoke about the services in that, right from the interface, the server, the drivers. Okay, all those are important for us to work on that. Now, in this particular diagram, we'll be talking about the in-depth detail, how exactly each and every step takes place. Okay, because as you can see, there are almost 10 steps which are involved in it. Okay, so in this 10 steps, we'll be talking about the major, that is the 7. The 8th and the 10th is just for the last part to understand. Okay, now we'll go step by step with this particular working of Hive. In each and every step, we'll try to understand what all things are involved in it. Now, as you can see this, there are two main part here, which has been divided here. You can see the oval rectangle. One is Hive, the other one is Hadoop, because we said that the Hive will be having a particular point that is to be transformed into a MapReduce. Okay, it is transferred into the explicit part of a MapReduce job. That is what is happening in these 2 points. Well, what happens at the Hive, we'll just understand in detail because we spoke about those drivers, servers, but here we'll talk about the steps, how exactly they're going to take place. Okay, and then the Hadoop part where we talk about the MapReduce, that is the internal part. That is how the internal background which will be taken from the Hive, the steps, and that step will be transformed into the MapReduce, and the furthest things have been concluded and given back to the result. Okay, now based on this, we'll just talk about the steps. Now we can see here, we start from the interface. Okay, whatever the interface you are using, either graphical or command line. From there, the first step begins. From there, we go to the driver. Okay, that is the Hive driver. From there, we have another point, that is compiler. Okay, and then we have from compiler, we have the metastore, and from the metastore, we go back to the compiler, then the driver, then we have the execution engine. Okay, so from there, we have the Hadoop, that is a job tracker, task tracker, MapReduce, all are taken care. Then we have the HDFS itself, that is the name node and the slave data nodes. Now this is what is the scenario which you need to look out for. Okay, now as we are looking out this, we'll just find out what each and every step does, right from the first up till the 10th step. Okay, so we'll go one by one with respect to that and understand how exactly it is being performing. Okay, now we'll go with the set of operations what are to be taken care. So this is the table in which I've written that step number and the operation of each step. Okay, so this is how it defines a Hive interaction with the Hadoop framework. So the first step we talk about, from the interface we move on to the driver, that is one. So execute query. So that is the point here. We are trying to execute the query here. The Hive interface such as command line or web UI sends query to driver, any database driver such as, we spoke about it in the earlier sessions, you can just check in another session. that is such as JDBC and ODBC, etc. to execute. So any database drivers will be used so that we can send a particular set of queries from the interface to the particular next step. Okay, now second step, what it says here is we are supposed to work with the execute query, then get plan. Okay, now the driver takes the help of a query compiler that passes the query to check the syntax and query plan or the requirement of the query. Okay, so what happens here, we talk about the first step, that is the driver. The second is from driver to the compiler. From the driver to the compiler we talk about it. So we are trying to understand the query plan. Okay, what are the necessary things to be taken care? You are trying to execute that query, right? So before execution you need to parse the query. Okay, so the compiler is there to parse it and understand the syntax, check it, okay, and query plan or the requirement of the query is to be taken care and proceeded. Okay, after that we go to the meta store. Okay, so get metadata. So the compiler sends metadata request to meta store, any database. So with respect to any database, you are trying to consider that and you are trying to capture it. Okay, so that is the third point where we talk about the compiler to meta store. Okay, which is sent, and again it is sent back. That is the fourth step. Meta store sends metadata as a response to the compiler. So that is the third and fourth step. Compiler sending it to the metadata to the meta store, and it gives the response to the compiler. Whichever metadata is required, based on that it will be responding. Okay, now after that there is a send plan. So the fifth step, you can see here, from the compiler back to the driver, that is the send plan. The compiler checks the requirements and resends the plan to the driver. Up to here the parsing and compiling of a query is complete. So what is happening here? We are just trying to understand the syntax of the query. Okay, you are trying to analyze the query. After analyzing the query, you are trying to make out what all necessary things are to be taken care to parse it. Okay, to understand the query, to compile it. Okay, once you do it, after compiling, understanding, analyzing it, you are moving it next to the query execution part. That is what the execute plan does. So what happens in the execute plan? It says the driver sends the execute plan to the execution engine. Okay, so this is the initial step which is to be taken care. Okay, after this we move on to the main, that is the execution engine. Now when I say execution engine, you can see there, that is the sixth step. Okay, now in the execution engine we are having certain things to be taken care of. That is the seventh step, and there is a sub step called as 7.1. Please make a note here. I am saying that in execution engine we have the seventh step, and also there is a sub step called as 7.1. Both have to be taken care. Okay, so seventh, what is the point here? Execute job. So when I say execute job, internally the process of execution job is a MapReduce job. Okay, so the execution engine sends the job to job tracker, which is in name node, and it assigns this job to the task tracker, which is in data node. I hope this point is clear by mentioning the particular. Okay, what exactly the MapReduce concept is about. Okay, that they are just trying to explain here. Okay, so the process of execution job is what? It's a MapReduce job. Okay, so when I say the MapReduce job, the execution engine sends the job to the job tracker. So what is happening? Job tracker and the task tracker, which is the name node and the data node. Okay, so that is what is the resemblance here, what you are trying to understand in the HDFS. I told you about the MapReduce and HDFS mapping. Okay, the job tracker, name node, the task tracker, data node. Okay, that is what is the internal part which is trying to be taken care of. Okay, now what you do here is the query executes the MapReduce job. Now that is what is the major part which you need to understand. The hide query is getting transferred into the MapReduce job, which will actually complete the task. Okay, and it is totally the job of the MapReduce to complete the task and give it to the hide. Now there is a 7.1 step, that is metadata ops. Meanwhile in execution, the execution engine can execute metadata operation with meta store. So any particular meta operation is there, we need to work out with that. Of course, when I talk about Hive, you will be talking about the operations and the operators also, which are required as and how to complete the queries. Yes, so we need to work out with the relational operators, we need to work out with the particular logical operators and perform it. So this is the metadata operations which are to be taken care with respect to the meta store. Okay, now so this is what is the 7th and 7.1 job which has to be taken care. Now this is the step which is a very critical step which is trying to tell us what is happening at the background. Okay, because here when you talk about the Hive query, you try to write down the query and you just try to send it. Okay, you are sending it to the driver, and after the driver, the compiler to take it to the meta store and back the same reverse step to the execution engine. This is where the actual job has to be completed. That is the map reduce concept. That is the internal part of it, and then it proceeds to the main part of it. Now, once the execute job is done, metadata ops is done, what is the point? We are talking about the 8th step, that is the fetching the result. The execution engine receives the results from data nodes. This is what is the point. So from the data nodes, the result is being computed, the job is done, and that has been sent back to the task tracker, to the job tracker. We get the 8th step back to the execution engine. Okay, you can see the arrow is both ways. Okay, the both way communication is being established. Now, when I do that, what is the next point? 7th and 8th is done. We take the result of it. After that, the execution engine will go back to the driver. From the driver, it will get back the result to the user, that is the client. So fetching the result is one. The execution engine receives the result from data nodes. The execution engine sends those resultant values to the driver. The driver sends the result to the Hive interfaces. This is the 3 steps which is to be taken care once the computation or the processing is done by the MapReduce part or the Hadoop. Okay, so fetch result, send results, and the last is sending the result to the Hive interfaces. Now this is all about the working of a Hive. Okay, so with this we can make out how exactly you are trying to make the in-depth understanding about the Hive and Hadoop. Okay, the MapReduce, what you are talking about, how they are trying to associate with each other and get the job done. Okay, now when I say this, let us make a point very clear here, that is the working of Hive will start from the interface and it will come back to the interface. Okay, that is what is the point. You try to write down a query. After you write down a query, you will be getting the result. Okay, but within that span of time, when you shoot a query and you get a result, this is what happens at the background. Okay, so starting from the driver, job tracker, task tracker, name node, data node, execute engine, and the whole stuff. Okay, so all these things, very important to remember the components, that is the driver, compiler, metastore, execution engine. All these components have to be taken note of. Okay, so this gives you the idea about what exactly the Hive does. Okay, so the next point what I would like to tell here is regarding towards the Facebook. I'll just tell you a small point how exactly the Facebook is using that. Okay, the usage at Facebook, and then we'll move on to the basic concepts again about the inbuilt functions, the command line interface functions, and all those commands. Okay, now Hive and Hadoop usage at Facebook, you can just make a note of these things so that I'll be posting any query and you need to just get the answers for that. So types of applications, basically we talk about the summarization, then we talk about the ad hoc analysis, data mining, spam detection, ad optimization, and the list goes on. Okay, so I'm just talking about here a few 5 points. Okay, so summarization, what is the point here? Example, that is daily or weekly aggregations of impression click counts. So you can just imagine a Facebook interface, what all things you are trying to come over it. So it is trying to capture, okay, the impressions or the clicks. That is the aggregate based on a weekly or daily basis, you're trying to cover it up. So complex measures of user engagement, how exactly the user has navigated from one point to another over the Facebook interface. So these are the measures, the complex measures which are to be taken care. So it is trying to give you the summary of it. Okay, first of all, the impression, that is the clicks. Then we are talking about the user engagement in a particular Facebook interface. When you see it, Facebook interface, you can make out so many things are there in a particular Facebook. Right from the clicks, right from the scrolling, right from moving from one particular what you can say, click to another, navigating from one to another. All these flows have to be taken care. Next, we talk about the ad hoc analysis. So ad hoc analysis example is given as how many group admins broken down by state or country. That is what is the ad hoc analysis you are trying to perform. Okay, so how many group admins have been broken down? You are trying to just filter it. You are trying to analyze each and every part of it. That is one. Then comes the data mining, assembling training data. Okay, so data mining, basically trying to explore, trying to get a particular value from each and every step what you want to cover it up. So example, user engagement as a function of user attributes. That's what I said. You are trying to cover it up by each and every detail what the user has been trying to click or trying to move or trying to navigate. You are trying to work on that. That is what is the data mining. Then comes the spam detection. So when you talk about the spam detection, what we say here is it's an anomalous patterns for site integrity and application API usage pattern. So basically these are the ways in which you are trying to work with the spam. All these are very much necessary for the Hive and Hadoop, basically Hive usage at the Facebook. So what is happening here? Anomalous patterns for site integrity. So any particular pattern which has been adopted and you are trying to perform, so you can integrate the site, you are trying to understand the site of it. That is what is the point. Then application API usage patterns. So if you find any difference in any of these patterns, you can make out that there is a spam which can be detected. Okay, so all these are kept in storage, then they have been processed and they are trying to work it out. Okay, that is either daily basis or on a batch processing concept. Then we talk about the ad optimization. How well you are trying to provide the ad, the best ad, which is very much relevant and the user is getting engaged with that. So this is the point which has to be taken care, and you are supposed to look out for the. So you can just go in depth about these particular applications. You can find some more details. You can add 3 more particular applications to this, and you can make a note of that and add to the set of slide. Okay, so you can just add some more applications in your book. Fine, that was just detailed about how exactly Hive is being used in the Facebook. Okay, lot of things are there, but this is the introductory part to make you understand, and you can just think about on what lines, on what stream exactly the Hive is trying to perform. Okay, so these are the examples which are being provided here. Okay, so the next step what we'll be discussing here is basically the command line statements. Okay, now when I say the command line statements, we'll be talking about the detailed commands which are used to execute it. Okay, so I'll be looking out for some set of commands. I'll be just giving you the idea about it. Okay, and we'll be taking up another session. In that session, I'll be discussing about the examples in that particular syntax. Right now, we'll just have the idea about the command line statements. So the first set of things we need to understand here is the function and the Hive commands which have been related to that. Okay, so you can see here the function has been listed. So the function is to run the query. If I want to run the query, I'll be writing down first the keyword, that is Hive, then I'll be writing a space -e. Okay, so this is the initial part to run the query, and in single quotes I'll be writing down the query which has to be executed or to be run. Okay, so this is what is the point you need to make a note. To run the query, I'll be using Hive -e in single quote. I'll be writing the query. Now the query here is select a dot column, that is a column from a particular table 1a. That is what is the syntax you have to use to work on it. Okay, so to run the command or run the query, I'll be using this particular command. Okay, next, to run a query in a silent mode. Okay, let it run at the background. So Hive -s is to be associated with it. So you need to prefix -s before -e, and you can just execute the command, okay, in a silent mode. Now, to select Hive configuration variables. So we need to work with certain configuration variables in Hive, and if you want to work with those particular queries, okay, how you can execute here is Hive-e again, then you'll be in single quotes, you'll be writing the query, that is the query statement, that is the select statement what is required. Then after that you'll be writing hyphen Hive conf, okay, and then you'll be writing hive.root.logger is equal to debug comma console. This particular command will help you to select Hive configuration variables. Okay, so this will help you to just understand that you are trying to get the configuration variables which are present in that select statement. Okay, so hive.root.logger is equal to debug, trying to tell you the details about that, where it has been taken care of, and it is in a console. That is the result which you need to pull it out. That is what is the point to be taken care. We'll talk about the configuration variables. Okay, now to use the initialization script, suppose you are talking about a particular initialization script which has been written and you want to work with that. So I'll be using hive-i, of course space is there. So hive-space -i space initialize.sql. So this is the SQL code which has to be initially run. So initialization script to be taken care of if you want to load, okay, upload certain data, you want to work with that. All those things can be worked with the following command. To run the non-interactive script, so if you are talking about any non-interactive script which has to run as a background, later we can talk about it. That is -f space script.sql. Okay, so this is the particular command which is used to run a non-interactive script. Okay, next we talk about to run the script inside the shell. Okay, suppose you want to run the script inside the shell. Okay, this is the command, that is source and the file name. You are supposed to use the source keyword and the file name which you want to run that. Okay, then if you want to list command, if you want to run that, I have to just use dfs-ls, and this is what we are discussed in a particular session when we spoke about the lab 2 term work, the file management. There we spoke about this, right? So /user. Okay, so I'm referring the user as the lab 2. That is what was used. So dfs space -ls space /user is the one which will help you to run the list command. Okay, to run ls from the shell, so you will be using this particular to run at the bash command, that is a batch command. Okay, that is exclamatory ls. This particular command will help you to run the bash commands. Okay, now the next set of commands are to set configuration variables. Suppose you want to check with the setting of configuration variables. What you can do here is set is the keyword. Okay, then map red dot reduce dot tasks is equal to 32. Okay, so this is how you can set the configuration variables for a particular task to be taken care. Okay, here we are setting it to 32. Okay, so you can check the same thing when you work out with the particular configuration by typing 570 in a browser. Okay, so I'm talking about the port. So you can just type that port and check out. You'll be able to check this is what has been set or it has been provided. Next, you can change it. That is what is the point here. When you talk about the Hive, you can change it by setting it. Okay, so tab auto completion, that is what we do here. So auto completion, if you want to complete it automatically, set Hive dot tab. That is the point you have to just work out with. Next is to display all variables starting with Hive. So if you want to start or display all variables which are starting with Hive, we will be using just the set command. Okay, and if you want to revert the variables, all variables, you will be using reset command. Okay, next we will be talking about to add jar files to distributed cache. Okay, of course you'll be talking about the jar files, because we'll be using the jar files. And lab number 3, when we spoke about the word count, of course the particular set of classes which have been generated by the class, or when you compile or run a particular Java program, you'll be getting a set of class files which have to be taken to a jar file, and the jar file has to be executed. That is the process which has to be taken care. Okay, so this particular point I have discussed in another session. You can refer that. So to add jar files to distributed cache, you need to just use the add jar space jar underscore path. I repeat here, it is add space jar underscore path. This is what will help you to add the jar files. Okay, only the jar files are to be considered here, so that it can be executed and generating the result, because the MapReduce will consider the jar files. That is how you are trying to execute it. Okay, to display all the jars in the distributed cache. So if you check which are the jar files which have been created, you want to display them, I'll be using list space jars. This is the command which has to be noted. So I am talking about list space jars. Now, if I want to delete jars from the distributed cache, I'll be using delete space jar underscore name. Whatever the name you have given to the jar file, okay, that has to be deleted. Okay, so these are the set of commands which have been utilized in the command interface to work with that. Okay, so next are the operations that can be performed on Hive. Of course, we'll just find out which are the operations. So the function is there listed, and the SQL query which will be performing that operations. Suppose I want to retrieve the information. Okay, if I want to retrieve the information, I'll be using select and from underscore columns. That is the column from table where condition. So select from where clause, what you have come across in the SQL query, will be used here similarly. Okay, so here we'll be using the columns so that we can perform on it, or you'll be using the rows. So to select all values, I'll be using the select star from table. So these are the two functions initially to be taken care of. So retrieve the information, select from columns from table where condition, and to select all values from a table, so select star from table. That is what will be generating the whole stuff. It will populate the details of that table. Okay, next to select a particular category. So if you want to select a particular category, what I'll do here is select star from table where record name is equal to value. So if you want to go with the particular categorized value, if you want to find out only that particular value, I'll be using where record name is equal to value. Suppose you want to check here a particular name, if you want to find out the details about that particular employee. Okay, so I'm trying to find out all the details where the name, employee name is equal to ABC. Okay, so I'll get all the details of that particular categorized values. Next, what I can do here is to select the multiple criteria. Okay, so if you want to work with not only single but multiple criteria, select star from table where record 1 is equal to value 1 and record 2 is equal to value 2. You can just go on adding here the multiple criteria. Okay, suppose that these are to be mandatory, so you can just check here. I am using a logical operator, that is AND. So what happens, both have to be true, then only you will get the values. Suppose I am writing a particular first name is equal to particular ABC and last name is equal to XYZ. If they are having the same set of values, if they are true, then only all the values from the table will be displayed. Okay, so that is the point you have to make a note of. Next, for selecting specific columns, suppose here you have to work out with the columns. Now this is what is the point to be taken care. So select column name from table. So this also provides a specific task, that is selecting a specific columns. Okay, not just rows but columns. So select column name from table will help you to generate that. To retrieve unique output records. Okay, same thing what you have to do there. Here also what you did in SQL will be using the same here. Select distinct column name from table. This is what is the point to be taken care or noted when you are trying to get or retrieve unique output records. Next, we talk about the set of points that is for sorting. So what if you want to sort a particular point? So what is the function to be used? What is the query? So select column 1 comma column 2 from table, order by column 2. So this is what is similar what you are trying to use in SQL. Okay, you are trying to use the select the column names. Okay, so in SQL you are trying to use the attribute names, the field names. Here we talk about the column names from table, order by column 2. Then for sorting backwards. Yes, so by default what you can do here is it will be ascending, and for sorting backwards you will be using the descending part of it. So up to column 2 it's fine. After that you will be using a keyword that is DESC. This is the particular keyword which will help you to sort backwards. That is the descending. Next, we talk about for counting rows from the table. Now what happens if you want to count the number of tuples, what you say in SQL, right? So here we talk about the counting rows from the table, same. Select count in bracket star from table, that is the aggregate function which you are using. Okay, so the aggregate function will help you to get the number of rows which are present in the table. Okay, so it gives you an integer return. So the output will be an integer value. For grouping along with counting. Okay, so suppose you want to group it along with the counting. So select owner, then count star from table, group by owner. Now, basically when you talk about the group by, we are talking about the subset of it. Okay, now what happens? There are particular set of students who have been assigned as a guides have been assigned to each of the set of students. Suppose there is a guide who is having 5 students. There is another guide who is having 8 students, and there is another guide who is having 10 students. So how will you generate it? So I give you the output, that is one guide is having 5 students, another guide is having 8, another guide, that is a guide third, is having 10 set of students. And if you want to generate this result, well, group by will be the one which will be used to generate it, because you are grouping it by the guide ID. That is what it says here, by the owner, right? So that is what is the point you are talking about. So here I am just getting what? The count. Okay, I am just using a counting concept and getting that 5 for one guide, 8 for second guide, and 10 for third guide. This is how you are trying to generate the result. Next, we are talking about for selecting maximum values. Okay, so select owner, count star from table, group by owner. So this is what will help you to work out. Now of course we'll be working out with the particular maximum value. The aggregate function will check that, and we'll work with that particular point. Okay, so next is selecting from multiple tables and joining. Of course, when you want to work with tables, what happens? There are set of tables which are related to each other based on the relationship. How well you are trying to join them? Of course, a join concept is very much important from the primary integrity, that is in referential integrity, and the what you can say, the primary key concept, primary key and foreign key. Okay, so the integrity concept and the referential integrity, how well they are trying to work out with the concept of joining. Okay, so select pet.name, comment from pet, join event on, where pet.name is equal to event.name. So this is how you are trying to join it. Okay, so in examples we'll be talking about these details. This is just the syntax which you can go through it. Next, metadata functions and query used for operations. So a metadata function, that is basically to work out with the databases. Okay, suppose you want to use that database, so I'll be selecting a database. So I'll use keyword, that is use itself and the database. Then if you want to list the databases which I have created, okay, so I'll be using show databases. Then listing table in a database will help you to show tables. That will help you to show the list of tables which are present in that database. Next we have describing format of a table. Suppose in you want to check the table, which are the columns in which you are trying to describe them. So I'll be using the describe. In bracket you will be writing formatted, or it will be an extended one. Okay, in this particular format, or you are talking about if that particular table is extended to another one. So that is the point, describe, formatted, extended, table. If you want to create a database, I'll be using a create command, that is create database and the db underscore name, that is the database name which you want to work with. You can create. If you want to drop that database, I'll be using drop database and the name of the database in bracket cascade, because this database will be having extension towards another database. So that is why you can use the cascading part of it. Okay, so this is the point you have to work out with the metadata functions. Now, the next point what you need to work out here is basically the built-in functions. So the built-in functions were helping us to understand what all things are utilized, okay, which are the particular built-in functions which we need to go through. Okay, so basically I'll be discussing this set of points, and we'll just talk about these set of points in the last segment of this session. So here you can see that we have particular function, that is round, then we have floor, seal, and so on. So what happens when we talk about these set of points? Okay, so the description, it says that it returns the rounded big int value of the double. So you are talking about in bracket you are given an argument and you are trying to round it off. Okay, so a double value, if you want to round it off, it will be of course rounded off into a big int value. Okay, we are talking about the big int. Okay, next it returns now here floor, and then you are talking about the double A. It returns the maximum big int value that is equal or less than the double. So floor is also the same kind, but it gives you the maximum big int. Okay, that is the max value. Then seal, of course, here also will be similar to the same concept what you are using. So it returns the minimum big. So seal will be the least big int value which will be equal or greater than the double. So floor and seal, you can just imagine the terms, opposites. Okay, maximum and this. Okay, so next we have a random number, that is rand function, and also changes from row to row with respect to the seed. If you are providing a seed value, it will be starting from that seed, it will generate the random values. Then we have the concat function. Okay, that is the point. It returns a string resulting from concatenating B after A. Okay, so it concatenates B after A. So A will be concatenated with the B value and generated. The string A and B are the arguments. Then we have substring. So substring is having the arguments like substring A and the int from where you want to check the substring. Okay, starting. So it returns the substring of A starting from a start position till the end of a string A. So wherever you want to start from that position, you can start and you can proceed. Next, we'll be talking about the substring with the starting point and also the length of it. So you can see here, it returns the substring of A starting from start position with the given length. Okay, so that is what is the point you can check. So string A, int start, int length. Then we have three important points, that is you can see upper and then the upper case, these are the U case. Okay, so it returns the string resulting from converting all characters of A to uppercase. That is the string and the value what you passed will be converted to uppercase. U case also does the same thing. Okay, U case or the upper. Then we have lower. It returns the string resulting from converting all characters of B to lower case. Okay, that is what is the point to be taken care. Okay, upper, U case, lower, and L case also similar to the lower. Then we have trim. It returns the string resulting from trimming spaces from both ends of A. If you want to trim any of the particular string, you can trim it. Next we have L trim, that is from the left hand side, R trim, that is from the right hand side. Okay, then we have regular expression to replace, that is having string A, string B, and string C. So it returns the string resulting from replacing all substrings in B that match the Java regular expression syntax with C. So this is the point you have to take care when we talk about the reg exp _ replace function is used. Okay, so you can check with that. Then we have size. It returns the number of elements in the map type. So it will be a key value pair which will be written. So that is what is the map. In the map you are trying to check the number of elements. So it gives you the size of that map. Similarly with the arrays, that is the size in bracket array and the elements which are present in that array, you are talking about the size of the value. Okay, so this is what is the point to be taken care. Next we have value of, that is cast. It converts the results of the expression to type, that is cast in bracket 1 as begin, converts the string 1 to integral representation. A null is returned if the file conversion does not succeed. So cast in bracket expression and the type which you want to typecast it. Okay. Next we have from uni x time, that is int uni x time, convert the number of seconds from uni x epoch. So the point is given there 1971 okay, to a string representation. Okay, so the moment in the current system time zone in the format of this. So with the date, the particular time is also being taken care in the following part of the function. To date will help you to get the date part of a timestamp also. So string is timestamp. Also a year can be taken care. So this is what is the point you have to make a note of with the following functions. Next we have month, day, which is similar to that. You can just take care of it by part. Okay. Next we have get underscore JSON underscore object. Extracts JSON object from a JSON string based on JSON path specified and returns JSON string of the extracted JSON object. So here we are talking about the JSON object, which is a hexadecimal concept you are talking about, and you are trying to work with that. And if it returns null, so what happens if it is an invalid JSON string? Next, we talk about the aggregate functions in Hive. So these are the ones I told you about: count, then count expression, then sum, if you want to get the sum of the elements, with the distinct column also, because they might be what you can say repeated or duplicate values. You are talking about those things. Then we talk about another concept, that is regarding towards the average distinct, then minimum and maximum. So these are the points which you need to make a note of. Okay, these are the aggregate functions starting from count, sum, average, min and max. In count, sum and average you need to work out with the distinct. Okay, sorry, with the sum and average only you have to talk about the distinct, so that we get the distinct value of it. No duplicates are counted or induced into that. That is the point you have to make a note of. Okay, so these are the points which will help you to understand the aggregate functions. Okay, so with this I would like to end the particular session wherein we talk about the Hive details. Yes, what all things are involved in that Hive. So the point here was regarding towards the working of it, then the command line interface commands, then the inbuilt functions and the particular functions which are used by it, and then we have the last, that is the aggregate functions. So this comprises the details about it. We'll be using all these in the practical sessions. Thank you. Take care.